Good evening. I'd like to call to order our meeting for today, January the 11th, 2016. At this time, we'd have invocation offered by Mr. Lotzenheiser.
Okay, please bow your heads. Father, we just thank you for the opportunity that you give each one of us here to be involved in the work of our school district. We ask your blessing upon everyone who's associated with this school district. I pray that we will all do our very best. We ask you to bless our meeting tonight, give us wisdom and discernment, and help us today and all the other times that we're together to make the very best decision for our boys and girls. And I just pray for each person, each family that's associated with this district, Father. I pray for our nation, pray for our leaders, that you would give us good and godly leaders. I pray for the men and women in our military, Father, that you would just watch over them and protect them and bring them safely back to their families. For we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Lotzenheiser. We do have a quorum. All of our trustees are present tonight, so we are, board, able to conduct business. At this time, that brings us to item number 5, adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve? It has been motioned by Mr. Jones. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Fisher. Is there a discussion? All in favor of the motion signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. The next item on the agenda is that of the approval of board minutes. Board, we do have 2 sets of minutes to consider for approval, one set from December the 9th and the other from December the 14th. If it is the pleasure of the board, if we could take them both at the same time. This will require an action. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
It has been motioned by Mr. Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Spears. Discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. The next item on the agenda is that of the Office of the Superintendent. The first item we have, Dr. Hickman, is a CMSD student caught in the act.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Sorry for the inconvenience. This is the time that we really enjoy because we get to celebrate our students for doing the right thing. We get to catch them in the act for doing the right thing. If I could please bring up Dr. Tim Wilcox, and he can introduce the student that we're going to bring up shortly, which is Hector Tavares. And Dr. Wilcox, can you please explain to us what this wonderful student did to catch him in the act?
Thank you. The nomination for Caught in the Act was actually submitted by my secretary, Sandra Wax. She received a phone call on a particularly rainy day from Hector that he had observed one of his classmates was outside of his house and no one was home and he was locked out. So Hector took it upon himself to call the school and ask Miss Wax to try to contact the parents to find out where they were to make sure he could get in.
Yeah.
And then Hector invited the student in to his house during the rainstorm so that he would be safe. And all of that he took upon himself to do. So we were very proud of his actions in that area.
And Hector, one of the things that, as you know, one of the things that we celebrate in our district are the 4 R's. And those are our character pillars. And he covered not only almost all R's, but one of the things is being responsible and responsive and resourceful, because he used his resources to very help another student. He was very responsive in that situation, and he put himself in another person's shoes to show empathy. And he's very responsible in his actions, because they're well above his age, to kind of think through and to figure out ways that we can better help the student. So we are very grateful that you not only exhibited the characters of the 4R, but you put them into action, and that you helped another student. So we want to present you with an award.
Yeah. Congratulations.
If I could also have the board step down so we could shake this young man's hand.
Dr. Hickman, thank you for that recognition, and Hector, thank you for going above and beyond the call of duty as a student. We also like to recognize and thank Hector's parents for following up with Hector's act and him calling and contacting the school.
Can
So
his
thank
family
you.
stand and we can give you a round of applause?
All right.
All right.
Very good. Job well done. Dr. Hickman, that brings us to item number B, the updates for our goals.
Okay, and first we want to start with our pathway initiatives, and we do have booklets available for the public. One of the things that we talked about briefly already with the board is that we do have a booklet that kind of in-depth describes everything that we're doing from grade levels, kindergarten through 12th grade within our district. And the different initiatives that we have started with support of this board to really empower our students and empower our teachers and our families to educate our students and families. And so our pathway initiatives, the pathway to success, pathway to graduation, and the pathway to our students' lives is kind of mapped out almost like a strategic plan through this booklet. The other one that we worked with our teachers and students is with our Pathways to Possibilities. And so we also connected with our local industries, and we went through each pathway option for the endorsement. And for instance, we mapped out the career fields, what money that they will make throughout those career fields, and what's the necessary options for them. And so this is something that's going to go home to our students and our parents, so please expect it. And we, our group worked hard putting this together to kind of map out a even playing field for our students.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hickman, for that update, and thank you for putting together those two pieces of documents for the board's review, and especially for our students and for our parents and the community and the different other sponsors that we have supporting the district. That now brings us to the quarterly report on student achievement.
Yes, and Mr. Pugh?
Madam President and members of the board, on December the 17th, MDE released the results for the PARCC test for grades 3 through 8. In November, we reported on English 10 and Algebra 1. The first page is a listing of the average scale score for the PARCC consortium, the state of Mississippi, the district, and each of the schools, elementary first, and then at the bottom of the page you'll see the middle school. Each of the scale scores fall within a range of a level. Level 1 would be scale scores of 650 to 699. Level 2 would be 700 to 724. Level 3 is 725 to 749. Level 4 is 750 to 804. Level 5 is 805 to 850. That translates into the past as level 1 would be minimal, level 2 would be basic, level 4 proficient, level 5 advanced. There is no label for level 3, but that is where the average scores seem to fall. On pages 2 through 7, is a chart that shows each level and the percentage of students who scored within that level across the state, across the district, and then by school. So the first few pages are math, the last ones are ELA. In the second part of those charts, there's a synopsis of levels 1 through 3 and that percentage, and levels 4 and 5 and their percentage, which would have translated in the past to what we would call those that are proficient and advanced. And as a reminder, in the exit exams for the high school, 725 and up in level 3 is the passing score, to give you an idea of how this falls out. The Office of Research and Development last week reported that accountability results will be delayed a little bit because of the alternate assessment. They expect those results at the end of January, and then they have up to, or not more than 90 days to complete their entire results process. So again, accountability, it may be as early as March, but more looking like April before we'll know where we stand in accountability. Currently, we are looking at the benchmark assessments that's been given, and with the more consistent work that's being done across the district at each school, we're seeing some good things. As an example, it's across the district, like second grade math and numbers and operations, we're seeing some good growth in that. So we're excited about reporting on that in the future and what we're seeing in the classrooms.
Dr. Hickley?
Yes, and so one of the things that, to piggyback on what he said, I met with all my principals today, and we went over the data. What we were looking at was from the start of the change of our curriculum at the beginning of this school year, and to really, you know, after we're done with last year, which was kind of our observation period, we wanted to know, as soon as the students walked into our classrooms in August, what effect did we have on the students in December when we took the second benchmark test. And what we found out was throughout the whole district that we were not losing students like we did before. And what that means is we have, in years past, we have had students, a lot of students who had negative growth, meaning that when they started in that classroom in August, they actually was worse off in December than they did before they started. And so what we showed was that we have very little minute negative growth, and we're going to have either, I haven't decided if we're going to have a work session. I would like the public to be invited. The next board meeting, I will not be here, and so, you know, we can talk about that later, but it's very interesting to look at the data, because what we're showing is now we don't have all those pockets of students who are having negative growth, and that's beneficial to us because that shows that now when students leave from grade to grade, that they don't have holes in their education. And so obviously if that happens, the higher grade they get, the more holes they have within their education. They don't have a solid foundation. And then that's where we're looking at, you know, rebuilding our district and constantly rebuilding our district. Well, we have shown that not only in the lower grades, but across, with the exception of the middle school, is that overall our students, that means that we are doing the core with fidelity. And so that core curriculum, we have established that we do have a baseline curriculum that's meeting the needs of our students that won't cause our students to go backwards. And it also showed that we have had growth throughout the entire district of our students. Now, and the reason why I want you guys to look at it is because when we say growth, and you know, we just need to look at the data when I say it. So our students have grown, but it's just like in a track race. If we're behind in a track race, in order to win, you have to run faster to catch up. So our students are behind, and so in order for them to catch up, they cannot have the same growth as everyone else. They cannot maintain the same pace. They have to, those students who are behind will have to grow double time and triple time. And so that's what we're concentrating now, is seeing the time that we can have students grow. I can already tell you, and I can put it out there then first, and then we can start to talk about it a little bit later as a district. I can tell you that one of the things when I worked with our principals and they kept saying, tell me more time. What time do we have, Dr. Hickman? What time? And so one of the exercises that we did was real quickly, we added up the time in our school day for elementary. And I don't know if anybody hasn't realized, but our elementary school day is 6 hours, 6.5 hours, not 8 hours. So more so when you look at schools who are behind, one of the characteristics that is considered to do is to lengthen your school day. Well, we're not even at the point where we can lengthen our school day because we don't even have a traditional school day. If you look at 6.5 hours or whatever that is, minus lunch, recess, and transitions, our students are only having 5.5 or so hours of instruction that should be an 8-hour school day. So I don't know if it was the busing, I don't know what happened that caused our instructional time to be so short, but that's something that we're going to have to address. And so I'm going to, you know, we're going to go back, we're going to look at it, we're going to try to figure something out. But the only thing that you do have is time. The only way that you can double up instruction and really get what you have to get is time. We are, As a state, we already do not pay for summer school, which is another option of how people increase their time. They increase their school day and they increase their summer school. And what happens is if you increase a regular 8-hour school day by 45 minutes and you add summer school on, that actually equals, just increasing the school day by 45 minutes actually equals 1 year. And so you can equal up to a year to year and a half of regular school day time that a student will have, especially in conditions to where the district that I inherited, where our students are traditionally coming in and we didn't do what we were supposed to do, that we have to catch them up further. So that's something that we're going to look at. But the positive thing before we leave is that the areas that we concentrated on, just like he alluded to second grade numeric numbers, it was actually second and fourth grade, I think it was, across the district. That's an area that we concentrated on, and we know that the kids are learning at the areas that we're concentrating on at the appropriate rate. And so the other aspect of it is rigor. And so if we was teaching them and we did a lot of basic recall, then our students are going to do well at recall. But if you look at the assessment, there's only one question of recall and assessment. And so it's not that our students can't learn, it's that we have fixed the curriculum core, and now we need to look at how do we add time and how do we double up their instructional day. So it is a positive, though. Our trajectory of growth is upward. It's not negative anymore. So we have a trajectory of growth. But the reason why I want you and our community to look at the data is because when I say that, you're going to assume growth has to happen first, then achievement happens. And so when I say that, it doesn't mean that our students are going to be meeting expectations. It means that if our students are at 20%, they're now at 30 and projected to be at 40%, but they need to be at 60% in order to meet. And so, time will get them there, but the whole thing we want to know is there growth, and it is.
All right, so you're telling us that the gap that we started out at the beginning of the year, that we're working to close the gap, and we can see that, we can measure that, and we can track that.
We can measure and track, and I can show you throughout the data.
All right, Board, are there questions for Dr. Hickman or Mr. Pugh? Mr. Spears?
Couple questions in looking at the results there. If you look at Stokes Beard, for example, 70 students tested in the particular testing period, and out of that there were about 78% of them that were either did not meet or partially met, which is about 55 out of 70 students at that location that were in those two lowest categories. I mean, that's obviously very troubling, just because, I mean, that's obviously an outlier when you look at, I mean, the others are pretty consistent in that area. I mean, obviously you don't be consistent in the bottom two, but that one especially seems to be very high. And then, of course, there's the other as well that's about 76% of the students in those first two categories. I believe that's Franklin, if I see that correctly, that are in that same predicament.
Mm-hmm. And actually what I've shown throughout the district is that when you really look at, because we have to look at the areas of where students met, and we're not there as a district. So when they show the total percentage of students who meet, it's really a difference between 21% and 25%. And that's what those numbers are going to equate to, and none of that is acceptable. And so, again, this is a snapshot data of a test that the state threw away, the state said is not appropriate. And so we looked at the college and career readiness standards that they just implemented. We did a backwards design on the curriculum where we had more of a flexible curriculum, especially when we went away from, we start using more than just one textbook, one resource online, open air resources, and those kind of things. And then we looked at what are we doing now with those students, and are they growing? And we showed significant growth in all areas, in every building. And there's not one building that runs ahead of another building.
No, I agree. I mean, when you look at those, I mean, you're still looking at somewhere about 50% in those two bottom categories based off the percentages there. But I guess my question is that, these third graders being tested there were second graders last year. And so basically you're looking at that if they're testing at this level based off of what's being administered to them, the second grade was something that they're still trying to catch up on, not just third grade testing, because those skill sets would be that you're basically having to fill in gaps on second grade and third grade.
And unfortunately, the STAR test, which is not that test, the test that they use to measure for the third grade reading gate, the number that they use is not a level of meeting expectation. It's actually a lot lower level. Not that that's excusable. I'm not excusing what you're saying. And we understood that aspect of it. But overall, again, the data trends that everyone there was not a school that really outperformed, one school or the other in that sense.
Other questions? So Dr. Hickman, has MDE determined what the new testing layout or format will look like going forward?
We have teachers who were on that committee, and I think they're like sworn to secrecy.
Okay.
And so, but we kind of have a gist of, basically it's off the standards. We know it's not going to be lower level like we taught before, basic recall. And so if you look at the curriculum that we have, and that's kind of, what the deputy came in and was really raving about, is the way that our curriculum is not flat, that it hits at different skill levels of our students, and also the 21st century design that we have of our instructional model. Those are the things that they're raving over. And those things we started in August. We didn't do last year because we were just trying to correct the wrongs. And one of the things that we have to be careful as a school district is that the level or the grade level is what the state kind of grades a district on. We didn't get that overnight. That's about 4 or 5 years in the making if you look at the data. And so we're not going to fix it in 1 year. It's not going to be fixed in 1 year. It's not going to be fixed overnight. But what I want to be held accountable for, what I want to hold my principals accountable for, hold my teachers accountable for, and I want our parents to hold us accountable for, is growth. Are we growing students? See, because they're not going to automatically meet, but we can change. They will be able to meet eventually if we continue to grow them at a rate that's fast enough to allow them to catch up. And that we are doing according to the data that we have looked at today from the last assessments that they took at the end of November, early December.
And so, Dr. Hickman, just quickly, the different types of assessment that our students will undertake in the interim, before we get to the major end of the year test, what do those look like? What are they?
So the NWEA and STAR is the data that I'm referring to that I want to do a workshop with you guys for, so you can look at it. And they're showing that we are having tremendous amount of growth throughout the district, that we're not losing students throughout the district.
So we look forward to getting reports on those assessments in the interim, like we do every month, and so you can continue to explain to the board, and we can know how our students are doing and what resources are needed, so that we can continue to see sustained growth in our student achievement. So
Right.
Thank you for that report. That brings us now to the dual enrollment and the work keys update for this last semester.
Ms. Lenore?
President, Dr. Hickman, members of the board, we wanted to give you an update this afternoon on the dual credit students that were enrolled at EMCC and MUW for the fall 2015 school year, and also to kind of give you an update of where we are as far as enrolling students for the spring 2016 session. Final numbers that we've received from EMCC, we had a total of 58 students to enroll in those classes at EMCC. We had 2 students to drop 3 courses, and when we looked at their final grades for the courses that they did take, We had 23 of those students to have a 4.0 GPA, 21 had a 3.0 to a 3.99, 12 of those students had a 2.0 to a 2.99, and we didn't have any students at EMCC to have below a 2.0 GPA for their fall semester. And a lot of these students, this was their first experience at taking college-level courses. Our students that enrolled at MUW, we had a total of 42 to enroll. We did have 3 students to withdraw from their courses there. We had 14 who had a 4.0 GPA. We had 18 with a 3.0 to a 3.5, 2 students with a 2.5, 2 students with a 2.0, and 3 with that had below the 2.0 GPA. So for the spring semester, we're looking at already we've pretty much wrapped up enrollment with East Mississippi, and currently we have 74 students enrolled. Some of the courses that they will be taking this semester, we have 24 students enrolled in Biology 1 with the lab, 24 enrolled in Art Appreciation, 20 enrolled in Western Civilization 2, and 17 in General Psychology, 15 in Western Civ 1. And there are also some of the other ones that are taking courses such as Biology 2, Public Speaking, Human A&P. We are still in the final enrollment process with MUW, and we'll have those courses completed soon. Those students begin there on the 20th of January. So we were excited about the progress that our students made for the first semester as they ventured into the dual enrollment courses at MUW and at EMCC. And as always, we're very appreciative of the support that you all have shown towards those students, because it has definitely opened up their opportunities to take the dual enrollment courses at these 2 institutions. Also, Dr.
Lenore, I want to make sure. So you said we had 100 students that took dual enrollment.
Sure.
We had 5 students that had to withdraw because they didn't meet expectations. So that's a 95% success rate of our students that took college courses that they count as college credit.
Count as college credit, correct.
And if you guys don't know how significant that is of 95% success rate, around the world, not just Mississippi, because Mississippi has but around the world there are 70% of college freshmen who are taking remedial courses. They're not able to take courses for college for credit that counts for a college level. And our students are in high school, juniors and seniors. 95% of these youngsters were very successful. We saw how many, if you even add up the figures of many who had a 4.0 or a 3.99 to a 3.0, that is monumental. So not only did we grow the number of students who took dual enrollment, they were successful. They were very successful with the supports that we had in place. So thank you.
Board, do we have any questions?
Well, I think you were going to talk about
I was just going to follow up on work keys. You gave that report on Wednesday. We did have 20 students who took the work keys test on December the 14th, and out of the 20, we had 9 students to score a silver level on the work keys assessment, and we know that is the score that most of the industries look for as they come into the workforce. So we were certainly pleased with the 9, knowing that that was our first attempt at students being enrolled in and taking a work keys test as well. So that's the final report from the work keys and the dual credit enrollment for the fall semester and entering into the spring semester.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Lenore. Board, do we have any questions or comments? Comment, Ms. Fisher.
Excuse me. I look at these numbers and I hear the facts that you're telling us, and I see the publications that you've put out, and I watch the news and I see the parents' academies and how students are reacting to what we're offering. And I just want to acknowledge that I no longer see something that's not just prevalent in Columbus or Columbus Municipal School District, but all over the nation, and that is students painted with one swell swoop of a brush. And what I have noticed and the feedback that I've gotten makes me recognize that parents embrace what is happening in our school district. Not only are they embracing it, but they're excited about it. And because they're excited, there are conversations now that are going beyond how was school today, or, you know, how did you do in your class? They're engaging conversation with their students. And this all takes work, but it not only takes work, it takes commitment. And I see that in our district, and I've seen it before. It's existed before, but I just see such a tremendous increase and a tremendous excitement that, frankly, I haven't seen before. And I just want to thank the teachers, the administrators, Dr. Hickman, the parents really need to be thanked, because they're the ones who must support this in order for success to be realized. And in our community, I see a different conversation among the stakeholders in our community. And I'm just very, very excited about that and very pleased to be a part of Columbus Municipal School District. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and I want to thank the board for the support. We wouldn't have any of this done without the board, so thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments, Ms. Fisher, and thank you, Dr. Hickman, for helping to move forward with the goals and objectives and the strategic plan that we've put in place for this district, so thank you. Now that brings us to item number C, the CMSD Read, Write, Run Marathon.
And Ms. Lenore, do you have the booklets for it? The Read, Write, Run Marathon is one of the things that we're doing, and we are passing around to our students, and we're asking for support with our community as well. The Read, Write, Run is read. Our students are going to read 26 books by April the 1st. Write is do 26 documented right acts of kindness. And run, as you can see right there, are 26 miles. And so we're going to finish it up by April the 1st. Our parents are going to help our students document those books or articles that they read, for 26 of them. And obviously good deeds, 26 good deeds. Where we're asking the community to come in, definitely we want teams and businesses or individuals, parents to also join in, and we would like for them to read 26 books. Of course, we want them to do 26 right acts. But the one thing that we're going to document with our community is that they will finish up with us on April the 3rd, or it's towards the end of April. I'm sorry, the 22nd. I'm sorry, it's up there. What we're going to do is we're going to meet at the end of what is that called? The Riverwalk, and we're going to do a 5K with our community. The students beforehand, they're going to finish their last mile at our track that should be completed and during the school day. They're going to finish their last mile together as students. But as adults, we're going to end up doing a 5K at the end. Not run it. We're going to try to run it, but we're going to complete 5K. And so as a community, we want to center around literacy, whether it's the Air Force Base, whether it's different locations in the jobs downtown, individuals. We definitely want to kind of gather our community around doing correct and good deeds and right acts of kindness. And then we also want to have a healthier community. And so that's where the 26 miles come in, so that we all can kind of live in harmony together in a more healthy us.
So then that means that the board can divide all of our 26 items up by 5, and that means that we each have 5 1/5 of books to read.
No, ma'am.
We all have 26 each.
26 each, just
So
like
we-
our
we're all
students.
in,
You
right?
as the board president run the 26 miles, and
For
we'll be on the side
everybody.
cheering for you.
We really have to divide that one up, Mr. Lattimore.
And we're going to say no hoverboards, roller
Right,
skates,
right. The old-fashioned way.
all those kind of things.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes, Mr. Lattimore.
Dr. Hickman, what's your feel about how many students are likely to sign up and register for this? Have y'all thought about it and determined what type of response is reasonably anticipated?
We're going to go on a hard push. I mean, I'm challenging my principals to solicit and to encourage as many students as possible. Some of it's going to be built within the classroom for our younger students, and so and during our PE classes, and then we're going to help them document acts of kindness, just like our young Hector did, but good acts of kindness throughout their school day. And then what we wanted to do is to spill over to their parents within the homes and those kind of things. So I can't project. Usually we do have a little more than half participation rate. It's a little harder sometimes to get our older students, but I think we're going to try to rally our older students to do the same. And so it's going to be a lot.
All right, so team board, here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we're on board.
Of
Thank
course,
you.
our lawyer also. He's a healthy guy.
Does cycling count too?
No.
All right, next we have the school safety report, which correlates to goal number 4. Pretty much we have our standing items each month. The discipline report, the workman's comp report, the student attendance report, the teacher attendance report, and then after that we'll go into the monthly policy review. So Dr. Hickman, if someone can just give us an overview of those different reports, that would be good.
Mr. Shannon, please.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, Dr. Hickman, members of the board, if you have had a chance to review our student discipline report, you see that the majority of our sites are declining over from last year, the number of incidents that have been reported, which is in line with the goals that the board has set, and we do attribute it to a lot of the things that Ms. Fisher and the other board members have said. It's kind of like watching a good movie. If it's exciting, if it's something that you're engaged in, if it's something that's interesting, the kids want to stay there, they want to watch, they don't want to miss anything, and they pay attention. But if you put a product up there that's not as exciting, that's not as interesting, their minds tend to wander a little bit. So we feel like by providing a very intentional but interesting curriculum that focuses on student achievement, our kids are doing a lot better, which lends less time for them to misbehave. So we are very proud. The numbers are headed in the directions that they are at the majority of our sites. With workman's comp, the same thing. Our teachers have been trained throughout the summer and beginning of this year through the members of MSBA that came up this summer through our professional development days at the beginning of the year. And our goal is to reduce our numbers from last year by 20%. We do know that December is a short month for us, so we only had one incident there, but we want to continue that trend as we move forward. Student attendance, you see that most of our sites have met their goals by staying right at the 95%. We did drop a little bit in December at a few sites, and we continue to have some issues that we must address at our senior site, Columbus High School. But with the exemption policy that we are reviewing and the number of students that have the 20 more days that we must drop from our roles, we feel like that those numbers will improve as we move forward. Teacher attendance, you will see some recommendations on our personnel agenda to fill some vacancies that we had. So if you notice teacher attendance, if there was a sub in that classroom, if there's a teacher that we hadn't been able to find until the Christmas break, that did count against these numbers, and the teacher attendance numbers may be skewed just a little bit, but we will continue to recruit and try to retain the very best people that we can put in front of our students each and every day. And that will, of course, increase student achievement and help these numbers. Any questions?
Or do we have any questions regarding any of the updates that Mr. Shannon has provided? All right. If not, thank you, Mr. Shannon. That brings us now to the monthly policy review update board. We have a number of policies that we discussed at our planning meeting on last Wednesday, and Ms. Lenore reviewed the policies for us and explained that really the updates that are being recommended for the policies are because of new state standards from MDE, and we needed to include those standards in these policies. So those are the only changes that have been made to the policies that are before us for consideration to approve. So if it is the pleasure of the board, if we could take them all at once, because we have reviewed them all. Yes, Mr.
I just
Spears.
have one question.
Yes.
With respect to the policy DI, Could you kind of elaborate just a little bit about what the MDE/CMSD? Just because I noticed that the current policy is posted there, but there's no proposed policy. And then if you look at the bottom, as far as the dates, which is different than item 2 under A, you can see where it has been reviewed, and of course the date is stamped by Ms. Lenore at the bottom of it, but that doesn't have the same type of, I guess you would say, indications at the bottom of policy DI.
So we're going to ask Ms. Tippett if she could pull that policy up. Can you access that, Ms. Tippett? The policy, it's DI.
If you just click on the link right there, yes, you'll see it's the current policy, but it's being asked to approve changes to it, but there's nothing there to show the changes. And of course, if you look at the bottom, you see 10/7/2013. There isn't really anything that shows what changes are being made. Plus, with it saying CMSD, that would make me believe that it was kind of an internal originating idea of modifying the policy along with what MDE may have proposed.
If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Lenore, this was one of the ones that you discussed on Wednesday, but can you share with us, please, again?
Yes, ma'am. The policy DI was one that we had before us last month that was there to review. One of the things that changed, the CMSD change, that was the one where we were working towards the checks that we had for that Ms. Holmes presented to us about the checks. That's why it encompassed the CMSD change in order to do that. The MDE change to it was a standard change.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Board, do we have other questions or concerns about any of the policies listed? If not, if we could have a motion to approve all of the policies at once, then we can move forward with our agenda. Is there a motion to approve? It's been motioned by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Spears. Is there other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. That brings us now to the next item on our agenda, which is that of the review of 16 section regulations and laws. Mr. Dunn, do you have anything to share?
I will try to keep this as simple as possible, mainly because Columbus is a unique place, and I think you know that you know that the majority of Columbus downtown is 16th section land. And of course, the 16th section is 1 mile by 1 mile. And every other place in the state of Mississippi that has a public school has, to my knowledge, 16th section land that they manage. Most often it's timberland. There are other examples where it's commercial and some residential and that sort of thing, but most of the time it's out in the county somewhere. There are some exceptions where Indian reservations have taken land, and Columbus is unique in that the legislature entered into some statutory passed statutes that eventually became considered to be contracts. And Columbus, the reason they did that, Columbus would not grow because it was 16th section land. And so there were some actions taken by our legislature that made Columbus a place where leases were issued for 99 years, renewable forever. And that language was used in the leases. And a lawsuit ensued eventually about 25 years ago. And there is a federal court order that was appealed to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals that says that all the leases that have not defaulted, that were ever issued under that original 99 years renewable forever statutory scheme is the same pretty much as fee simple title, as long as the leaseholders continue to pay their taxes and pay the lease amount. And the lease amount is a very small amount, typically $2 or $3, maybe even $1.50. Now, There are tracts of land that were never under those 99-year leases, such as the Magnolia Bowl, Franklin Academy, Union Academy, because they were always used by the school district for school purposes. There are some leases that came to the district by default, and we're managing those under the 16th section laws the same as any other school district, and there are only a few. There are some exceptions. Example would be the old district office on 7th Street, which the Chamber of Commerce or the Port Authority, I think, now owns. That was leased, and the building or improvements sold. We can sell the building, but the property is leased for under a 40-year lease. So so anyway, basically, this district, the business office, is managing those leases. I'll be honest, in looking at the list of this, I'm not sure, because some of these leases are showing 0. At the meeting last Wednesday, I think the request was to just give us a list of the ones that we are managing. And in looking at that list, some of these don't make sense to me because they're showing no rent.
Right.
You've got some that are 7-year term, some that are 40-year term, but there's only, I think, 3 of them that have lease payments for $800 and some other sum. So I don't really understand that, and I would like the board to allow me to work with Ms. Holmes and come back to you next month with a list to make sure we're on the right page about that.
And Mr. Dunn, and so for the ones that are coming due in 2017, I think that was the date, will you also research for us to see, are we at liberty? Well, I'm sure that we are, for increasing any of the lease, the fee amount.
You're under an obligation to, and when I come back, I want to make sure I get my arms around the leases and know what we're talking about for sure, but you have to have reappraisals every so many years on the new leases, just like even the lease agreement for Union Academy that we've been doing. We're running out of our time now. That's about 5 years, and every 5 years you have to have a reappraisal, and because that's the law.
Right.
So, it's not just, but for instance, the Port Authority, that lease has to be looked at, which is the old Chamber of Commerce. That has to be looked at cyclically, regularly. And I'm going to get with Ms. Holmes, and we'll make sure this list is right, and we'll come back and deal with that at the next meeting.
All right. Board, do we have any concerns about that or any other requests? Mrs. Fisher?
Excuse me. I have one question, and that is a point that you brought up, Mr. Don, and that is that after a certain number of years, it is required by law that we have a reappraisal. Is it possible, when you truncate this list, to just contain the ones that we're getting the payments for, as I understand it, that we also identify on here when the expiration date is for the reassessment or reappraisal?
Yes, ma'am, we will. When we get a comprehensive, and Ms. Holmes and I are convinced that we've got all the leases, it should reflect the current lease payment and also when the reappraisal, it's not the release, it's just reappraisal, is due.
Mrs. Spears?
Well, I think on the report there, it does show an expiration date, and that's why some of the ones that are showing payment, like First Baptist Church and others, you see the begin date, which I would assume would be their new term. They started in 97, and their expiration's 40 years later in 2037, and so...
Yeah, I can tell you this. There are 2 up there that I have personal knowledge of. One is the Chamber of Commerce, and I handled that sale and that lease, and it was set up with Mr. Hughes years ago. He made sure the monies came in, and he was in control of that one. And I haven't talked to Ms. Holmes about that one, but that's under, on my watch. The second one was by the 16th Section attorney, Mr. Montague, negotiated the Stephen D. Lee lease because it was close to the litigation. And I had a conflict of interest, and I did not represent the school district in that litigation. And Mr. Montague negotiated that one. I don't know, Mr. Lotzenhauser, you may have been president of the board at that time. You were on the board for sure. So those two I have knowledge of. The others, I'll be honest with you, I was surprised to see them. I didn't know that and the zero lease payments are confusing to me. So let me work with Ms. Holmes and come back next month.
All right, and we'll be looking forward to that report.
Okay.
All right, thank you. That brings us now to the MSBA Hot Topic Seminar. Board, we do have some dates in front of us for some training and professional development for the board. And so the dates are here with the locations, and so if anyone would like to participate, just please get in contact with Ms. Woodard and let her know what to schedule you for. That brings us now to the consent agenda items. Board, we have had an opportunity to review the student transfer request for two students transferring into the district. We have a few grant applications for consideration, along with a $400 Walmart card to be received by the district, and then an advertisement to approve the advertisement for the E-rate Next Generation Firewall, bid number 637. So this will require an action. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items? Has been motioned by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. Is there discussion? All in favor signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next item is that of the Office of Personnel. The next item is the Office of Personnel, and we have consideration to approve the personnel agenda. Board, we have had an opportunity to review this listing of positions within the district, and this will require an action. Is there a motion? It has been motioned by Mrs. Fisher to approve the personnel agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. Is there discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify with your right hand. Please let the record show that Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Lotzenheiser, Verdell, and Mr. Jones are in favor. All opposed? Please let the record show that Mr. Spears is in opposition. The motion does carry. The next item on the agenda is that of the Office of Support Services. Board, we do have consideration to approve two out-of-state field trips, one for the Columbus High School band to Atlanta, Georgia, and the other for the Columbus High School football team to Mobile, Alabama. This will require an action if it is the pleasure of the board to take them both at once. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
It has been motioned by Mr. Spears. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. Is there discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Now that brings us to the Office of the Business Manager. Mrs. Holmes. Board, we do have our monthly financial statement reports, the fund balance, the cash balance, the budget status report. Do we have any questions or issues for Mrs. Holmes on either of those three reports? If not, then that brings us to the monthly combined and combining financial statement report. Do we have any concerns or questions about that report? Then that brings us to the monthly revenue budget report and the monthly expenditure report. We also have the certification and summary of reconciled bank statements and the ad valorem analysis for the month. If not, that brings us now to the athletic events report. Ms. Holmes.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Hickman. You have before you a summary of the athletic admissions revenue for CMSD, and for the month of December, we collected a total of $20,355 for the events that were held during that month. Year-to-date, our admissions revenues for athletics totaled $83,725. Last year, this time, year-to-date, for the month of December, the district had collected $56,112. That's an increase of an increase of $27,613 over last year's collections. That's roughly 33% increase in admissions revenue.
All right, thank you, Ms. Holmes, for that report, that positive report, that good report. Must be something about winning that does that for you. Winning will bring people out to support, and that's a really good feeling in this district. Board, do we have any questions or concerns, issues with that report? If not, that brings us to item number H, which is the consideration to approve the transfer of surplus funds. This will require an action. Is there a motion to approve? It has been motioned by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all in favor of the motion signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. The next item on the report on our agenda is the quarterly budget amendment. This will require an action. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
It has been motioned by Mr. Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Spears. Is there discussion? All in favor of the motion signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. The next item on our agenda are dates to remember. And there are about 16 different dates to remember. Yes.
I just wanted to make sure we know that the basketball game tomorrow against Inawamba is canceled.
All right, thank you for that update. But as of right now, the soccer game away is still taking place? Okay, all right, so we have about 15 dates to remember, and we would just ask that the board and the public would heed the dates and that we support our students in the different aspects of extracurricular activities that they're participating in. Now that brings us to closed determination for executive session. Is there a motion? It has been motioned by Mr. Lotzenheiser.
Second.
No second is required, but thank you, Mr. Jones. All in favor of the motion signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. At this time, we'd ask that the public would leave the room, and the board will determine if there are items to discuss in executive session, and if so, we'll come out and let you know what those items are. Thank you very much. At this time on the agenda, we are at the item where we need to consider to approve our docket for the month of December. Board, this does require an action. Is there a motion to approve? It has been motioned by Mr. Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Fisher. Is there discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify with your right hand. Please let the record show that it is unanimous. The next item on the agenda is the last item, and that is to adjourn this meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn? It has been motioned by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there a second?
Okay.
Verdell will make the
Okay, I got it.
second. Are there questions? Now I have about 50 questions.
Who made the second?
Verdell made the
Okay.
second, but I have 50 questions because we need to stay here another hour. So, question number one, no. Okay, so
Make it
all in
5.
favor of the motion, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous, and this meeting is adjourned. All right, thank you, everybody.